Welcome to Atlanta Sightseeing. Please take your seat and keep your hands and feet inside the railing at all times.
Ma'am, in this brochure it says this tour is crunk. What does that mean?
Yeah. Welcome to Atlanta's Hammers and Bones.
Yo, what is up, everybody? It is time for the In Off the Bench podcast. I am Daniel Ball, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, my partner in crime, my brother from another mother, Jim Cross. And Jim, we are talking United Grid League with the owners of the Atlanta Wild, Jonathan Chen, Mia Hibbert. And before we get into the playoffs, the season, everything Grid, we got to pay the bills around this place. The In Off the Bench podcast is brought to you by Chinook Seedery. Whether you're on the field or in the boardroom signing deals, Chinook will help you get the job done. River City Designs, get your brand's gear and logos on everything from shoes to under roofs. You can also get your In Off the Bench gear while supplies last. It's holiday season. Stocking stuffers, gifts from Santa, you name it. Whatever you need, go get the In Off the Bench gear. Get your team colors, support your team, support us. Relief Chiropractic, go see Dr. Vic Robinson. He is adding years to people's lives. He's giving them recovery, rejuvenation, everything in between. Go see my boy Dr. Vic so he can take good care of you. And finally, Old Dominic Distillery. Experience 150 years of tradition in the heart of downtown Memphis. From bourbon to vodka, whiskey to gin, Old Dominic's got you covered. Stop in today for a tour or just to pick up your favorite bottle. And as always, tell them DB, tell them Jim from the In Off the Bench crew sent you. Jim, that was a mouthful. But all the sponsors got their love. All the bills have been paid. So let's hop into the biggest interview in podcasting this week with Grid League owners of the Atlanta Wild, Jonathan Chen, Mia Hibbert. All right. Jonathan, Mia, how we doing tonight?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it wouldn't be fitting for the Atlanta Wild if I didn't play something Atlanta-based in the intro. And that was the one song that I knew everyone would recognize from Atlanta, because I could have went 1,000 different routes, but that's the route that I went tonight. So I hope you guys are good with that.
It's the best one.
That was a
you're
good one.
good.
We appreciate it.
That's the best one.
You know, I just try to
debatable. I mean, if you're gonna go Atlanta, Daniel, T.I. is the only way to go. He's king.
I am a huge Outkast fan, so I was really debating that. But that
would have been good too.
I mean, Outkast has really let me down. I was
when it comes to where we're from in Memphis, you know, there's a few artists, but you usually just the one. And with Atlanta, so many amazing artists, it's a lot harder to decide which route you're going to go. It's definitely different.
Swag Surf has been our song of choice at matches lately.
Oh,
I can get down.
Could have been surfing, bro. We could have been surfing.
2019 LSU football team national championship that was covering. That was their jam that year, and we won to it. So I can feel the vibes from that. Mia, I think I can get down with that, but. I got to know. We're talking Atlanta. Mia, I'll start with you. Where are you actually from?
That is a highly loaded question.
All right. Where do you claim? If you had one place that you're going to claim, where is it?
I claim the Philippines.
All right. And so that's going to be a loaded question on our end, because me and Daniel like to ask, if we go somewhere, what's the one thing to do? Well, you didn't tell us, I don't know, just some random suburb in America. You hit me with a much bigger area. So if we're going to go there, what's the one thing me and Daniel, if we travel there, we need to do?
Eat the food.
Lumpia, buddy. That's it.
Well, I mean, lumpia is pretty standard.
That's the only one I know.
I was gonna say, Daniel, she just shot that down. Like,
I mean, that's the only one I've had, and it was delicious, and so that's kind of my go-to.
Lumpia is what most people know. Lumpia and probably like something like chicken adobo. right?
I
Um,
mean,
those
I'm
are
always down for food. So you spoke
pancit,
to my
maybe
heart.
if you've heard of pancit, that's like a very famous noodle dish. But if you're in the
Lechon.
Philippines, and I know John would probably say the same thing because he's from Taipei, Taiwan.
Well,
Yeah.
she
Yep.
took your opportunity, Jonathan. I was going to ask you where you're from, but she's just going to throw it out there, right? So
That's where he's from. He just got back from there.
I know.
I
But
mean, I
didn't
would
get a
claim
chance to ask
California,
her
but
myself.
What? You traitor.
Well, so Jonathan, if I was to go there, give me something different than food. What's the one thing I need to do?
you got to go night markets every single night. That's where the food and all the shops. If you really want to true Taiwanese culture, go to a night market. And then if you want something a little bit more modern, we had the tallest building in East Asia for the longest time. So Taipei 101 is a sight to see. You get to see the entire city.
Jonathan, you lost me at night. I got 2 young kids. If you're asking me to do anything at night, I'm sleeping.
Night markets start at
they
like
got
6 p.m.
day market.
Yeah, night just means when it's dark.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
maybe, hey, but
Yeah.
Daniel, it's a different time zone. Maybe your kids will be absolutely wired because it's daytime here, man.
Lord, I would never take them.
It'll be 6 a.m. when it
overseas.
starts here. So
See, there you go, Daniel.
kinda
They're
works
just
out.
getting up.
There we all right. Maybe we could start our day at the night market.
Well, speaking
You
of
should.
kids, talking families, Mia, talk to me. You got family?
I have a husband.
He must be in the doghouse. That's the way you kind of said that. I don't know.
No, he's
I have a
fine.
husband that I'm unfortunately having to deal with.
Right. Well, I was trying to figure out like if he was in the doghouse right now, and he's not. We're good. We just had dinner together. We're fine. Yeah. So I have a husband, and then I have a dog. No kids. But I do run an affiliate here in Texas, so I have about 200 kids at my gym.
I know what that's like. I coached at an affiliate here in Tampa, and you're right. It's like hurting lots of big kids all
Yep.
day long. It's
Yep. They're my big kids.
wanting to know, well, what's the workout tomorrow? I'm like, bro, you haven't done the workout today.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
Exactly.
And then our players on the Wild, they call me mom.
Yep, they do.
Yep. I'm mom.
So, Jonathan, you got 200 kids. I mean, what are we looking at here?
Nope. I have 5 cats.
Yes. Hey, hold on. Stop. Before you even tell something, look, I'm a cat person, and most guys like won't own it. They're like, I don't like cats. And then people come over here and they always want to play with my cats. I'm like, dude, cats are awesome. So you got me at 5 cats, but
We
continue.
got 5 cats.
that's because his dogs don't like him. That's why.
No, cats are easy maintenance, man.
Yeah. And for all the travel that I used to do for work, it was necessary. If I was gonna have a pet, it was gonna have to be a cat. But yeah, no kids. I am dating, and that's about it.
I got a real question for you. I'm gonna find out about you right now. So you have 5 cats, and people who have kids say they don't have a favorite kid. I think that's a lie. I have a favorite kid, and I have a favorite cat. And so I ask you, of your 5 cats, do you have a favorite?
Of course I do.
Of course. Well, tell me what's the name. I need to know who's the favorite.
It's Bixby, and he's the 3rd one.
There you go. Shout out.
Does he know he's your favorite? Does he like walk around all smug like? Ha,
I don't think he
I'm
knows
the
he's
favorite.
my. I don't think he knows he's my favorite. I think he likes my significant other a little bit more, but he's still my favorite.
That's
I
how it
mean,
is,
he's
though.
playing his cards right. You got to take
Yeah.
care of the significant other.
Yeah. He's got to kind of play. He's got to play the field, so we're just fine.
That's just how they do
We-
it. When
how they do it.
my husband and I met, I came with the dog, but the dog now is his.
Package deal. So, all right, we got the family, got where you're from, Mia. We got to start next. I mean, this is a sports podcast, so I got to know coming up. Were you into sports? So a lot of sports, one sport. What were we doing?
Oh, lots of sports, which I think is pretty surprising to people who know me. Currently, I only participate in like weightlifting. I do CrossFit recreationally with my friends, and everybody who knows me, they know that if there's running in a workout, I am doing it.
Man, Daniel, she is speaking my language. I played.
However,
I don't like to run anymore either. Give me the weights.
However, I was big in track when I was in high school. I ran track for a long time. I played soccer for a long time. I did all the cardio, and now I hate it. Don't ask me to do it. I won't.
I mean, Daniel, can I not feel this? Like when we were in school, I was skinny and fast, and I love to run too. And now, unless somebody's trying to chase me and kill me, I'm not running for nothing. So
see, we're the same. I actually, someone had baked fresh sourdough and brought it to the gym last weekend. And I saw it and I ran across the gym. And one of my coworkers commented, they're like, wow, Mia, that's the fastest I've ever seen you move before. And I said, well, there was bread. I'll run for bread. I won't run for fun.
I'll tell you this, Mia. I hate running so much, but I did run back-to-back Octobers for pediatric cancer in Memphis. And here's how bad it is. You say, oh, well, you ran the 5Ks. I refused to prep at all. I just ran that day. And I was whatever time I got. It's not like I was trying to win. I was out there for a good cause. But, talking to Daniel, you going to do any preparation? No, I don't want to run more than one day. So that was –
we don't do that. We save all of our running energy for when you actually need it.
For when your life is on the line. That's when I'm
Jonathan, I have a feeling we're going to go an opposite route here. Talk to me about growing up, and are you somebody who hates running? I mean, I've seen some clips, so I'm going to go with a hard no on that. So you're somebody who actually enjoys the cardiovascular side of it.
I wouldn't say I love running, but it's something I'm decent at, which is probably why my coach never programs it for me. I was not raised to be an athlete, but I did end up playing volleyball at high school, college. I played one season abroad. When I graduated, I became a professional ballroom dancer for 10 years. And then when I retired from that, I went hard left and I've been doing competitive CrossFit for like 4 years.
So I got to ask, the competitive ballroom dancing, that's one of those things no different than playing an instrument. That is something that I feel like women would love. Am I right about that?
Yeah. I mean, let's just say when I taught, I was booked. So, yep, I would definitely say so.
All right. So last one, I'll turn it over to Daniel. Mia, coming back to you. So when does, the fitness aspect that we're talking about that's going to play a role in obviously grilling, when does that kind of lifestyle, you talked about CrossFit, when does that come into play?
You mean as far as like doing
not when you became
life?
official in the league, but when you got into when you got into CrossFit?
Oh, okay. So I feel like this is a story that I hear from a lot of women. My ex-husband was the one who encouraged me to try CrossFit as a way to lose weight. So I did it. I loved it. Got rid of him.
Kept CrossFit, but got rid of him.
Yep. Kept CrossFit, got rid of him. And then CrossFit is actually how I found my new husband.
Look at that.
And he's way better.
The story within the story, Daniel.
I'm telling you, I mean, it was like it was meant to be. You went into that CrossFit gym, like so many other people, not to find a significant other, but to find the social interaction and a community of people with like-minded individuals that like to work out and support each other.
Yep.
And like many other people, you end up finding someone, because I know a lot of people that met at a CrossFit gym.
Yep.
I mean, the only time that I've been to one is for certain events, like to do the Murph and everything. And that's the first thing I see, Daniel, is just the community. Like everybody's like family there. And so I've always thought that aspect of it was definitely pretty cool. But Jonathan, for you, when did it become a part of your life?
I started CrossFit in 2019. I'd worked in the fitness industry for a while at that point, and I was doing the same thing over and over again for work, and I kind of just needed to do something for myself. So I decided, why not? It was down the street from where I worked, so it just kind of made sense. It was a good way for me to wait out traffic. And I also taught dance next door. There was a dance studio next door, so I could teach my evening lessons, wait out traffic, and get a workout in, and then go home. So it was it started off as more of a convenience thing, and then when I retired from dancing, I needed something competitive, so I found the coach that I have now, and it was kind of full steam ahead from there.
Nice. So obviously we got to get into grid. It's nice
Let's
getting
do
the
it.
backstory and kind of get, understanding and a mindset and a frame of your journey to lead up to what we're getting into. But Mia, I'll start with you. Obviously, being the owner of a CrossFit gym, grid it's not the same at all, but there is a good mix and mesh from what you do in a CrossFit gym to grid. So I'll start with you, and I like to kind of hear both of your answers on this because I'm curious. Like if you're to give an elevator speech or a pitch on what grid is, like how would you describe it to just a general person who may know a little bit about it, but they're not really sure what it is?
I mean, I would describe grid as very it's definitely a spectator-based sport, right? Like it's more of a performance than something that someone could train for full time, all the time for the rest of their lives. Unlike CrossFit, right? Like we talk about CrossFit as a lifestyle. Grid is not a lifestyle, although most people would compare it to CrossFit because they see a lot of similar movements. So I don't know. I mean, it's like CrossFit, but not short-term CrossFit would kind of be a way to describe it, but that makes it sound very negative. Like, oh, if you play grid, you're not going to last very long. Kind of like, I don't know, a lot of NFL players or stuff like that. But like short-term CrossFit in the nicest way.
Yeah. Jonathan,
nicest way possible.
Yeah. I understand, what you're saying. And a lot of it really kind of comes down to what I gather from other people I've talked to in the grid space is that, Jonathan, it's not a way of training. It's more so of way to use your training to do something different. And this difference is a lot of CrossFit-esque movements, but also it's a lot of different strategy, of teamwork, of elements that require certain specialists to be able to do and perform. So from you, Jonathan, like what would you say is the one thing that makes grid different from just a typical CrossFit gym?
Yeah, I think it's a showcase of what our athletes do best. And we put that in a race format. So I think in CrossFit, in order to be very successful at it, you kind of have to be a jack of all trades, and grid you don't. And I think that's the most unique thing about it is we're going to showcase you on the grid in what you are best at, and you're going to race it. And that's why it's super exciting and why it's easy to follow. I
mean, that's the ringer points are some of my favorite events to watch because it's just like, one-on-one, and it is female sometimes versus male, but it's like give the person that is the best at this particular movement, and it may not even be close to the strongest, the fastest, or whatever person that you have. It's just the person that is best at that particular movement. And I think that to me is what makes grid so special, is that anybody who is good at something could find their way on a grid team, but also find their way on a grid team and be a contributor.
Well, Daniel, I was thinking about, like, because we're such huge Survivor fans, you talking about, a male and female going at the same time. How many of those challenges we see where they're going head to head and, it looks, it doesn't matter gender difference. They're both killing it side by side, and it's a dead race, dead heat, because like you said, in those certain competitions, there are things that are one or the other strength, or sometimes both of their strengths. And so it kind of reminds me, because we know a lot of those challenges are physically fit challenges. It kind of reminds me of the other.
Yeah. I like when the ability to get rid of gender roles allows both people to compete against each other pretty equitable. And grid is one of those things where you can create a lot of equity with the same movement. and it's great to see. I love watching matches where it's male and females mixed in, and it's almost like it's exciting. You get on the edge of your seat, you're yelling, you're screaming at the computer or whatever it is, and before you know it, like you're like, holy moly, what did I
think because Daniel has 2 daughters. Look, when I've watched competition with him, I think he's always rooting for the girl. Look, he's always like, this girl, she's a badass. Let me tell you about her. I'll never hear him talking about the dudes like that. I'm just saying.
I mean,
We love that.
I got a
we also have a
agree with
roster
that.
of strong women, so that's. I mean, I think.
I mean, he lives in a house with 3 women. He's learned to be a fan and take care of them, and he knows where to put his value. He's a smart man.
Well, what about you, Jim?
I mean, no, I root for. I have a daughter as well, and she was an athlete, so I've been that way as well. But I'm actually my ego comes into play. Daniel will tell you whether we're talking about wrestling, which is fake, or we're talking about Survivor. I always, for whatever reason, gravitate towards the arrogant prick. Don't ask me why. I don't know. That's because I was that guy.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, Daniel, am I telling a lie?
No, not at all. Not at all.
I mean, I love Survivor too, and those are the best players.
So
I get it.
Jim's favorite CrossFit guy would be Ricky Garrard. That would be the type of person.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
So that kind of puts it in perspective.
I don't know why. It's just I don't know. I like the villain that's on top. Just give it to me.
Well, at the end of the day, it's a show. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a show, and what we're doing is, what we're doing on the grid is putting on a show. So, I mean, that's great if that's what makes you want to watch.
Which it works great in my house, right? So if me and my wife are watching a competition, she's always for the underdog, and I'm always for the top dog. So gives us that ability to root against each other and see who's going to come out on top because it can go either way.
There we go.
So, Jonathan, when did you find out about grid? Obviously, it's been around for a little bit. I mean, the evolution of the sport has changed in a couple of different facets. But for you, when did you find out about grid?
I think I found out about grid a couple of years ago. I think a lot of grid clips go viral. So I was definitely part of just watching that and just kind of seeing what it was. And I would watch a match here or there on YouTube because the Grid League YouTube channel does a great job of archiving all past matches. So I kind of would just dabble a little bit. Never thought I would be a part of a team at any point. But I am actually me and I both are part of it. We're part of an athlete collective here in Atlanta. And one of the coaches there is Dan Jackson, who was our head coach. And so it was very interesting that our kind of paths crossed at the exact same time. So he had initially recruited me to be an athlete. And then I started battling a couple injuries, so I couldn't do that. But he asked me to be the assistant coach for this year. So that's kind of how I got thrust into that role pretty quickly.
Well, Mia, obviously, we were mentioning the evolution of the sport and coming from what was the MPGL to the Florida Grid League to now the United Grid League. When did were you into grid when it was MPGL or Florida Grid League, or were you solely like, this is brand new this year, like this is something I just got into?
I found out about grid when it was still the NPGL. So my husband is RJ Hibbard. He's one of the players on our team. He was actually working with Dan Jackson, our current head coach, who was the former head coach at my affiliate, the affiliate here in Texas that I'm a part of. Dan was our old head coach there. He met RJ at the gym, recruited him to basically try out for NPGL. RJ did all of the testers, and it was that year that the NPGL went under. So fast forward a couple of years, John, do you remember when RJ first started? Was it 4 years ago?
I think so.
I think it was 4 years ago. Yeah. So 4 years ago, when the Gainesville Wild was a team, he got recruited by their head coach, Adam Muir, who knew Dan from somewhere. I think NPGL. I'm not sure. But Adam had recruited RJ to join the team. So then I became like a Gainesville Wild wag, right? Like I'm a grid wag now.
I'm so glad y'all went from Gainesville to Atlanta because
Right.
Gainesville is the location of University of Florida, which me and Daniel do not like at all.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm so glad we're gone from there now.
I can get down with Atlanta. We can't get down with Gainesville. Great move. Great move.
Fair.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if you were a fan of the first evolution of the MPGL, but to me it sounds like RJ seemed to get kind of screwed out of that. So I could imagine that you're not really a fan of that MPGL.
I think I was a fan because that was also the time where I was just getting into CrossFit too. So seeing kind of like all of those big name CrossFit athletes being part of Grid was something that was pretty exciting for me. So like Jamie Hagia, I've always been a big fan of hers. If you're not noticing the Asian connections here. So a big Jamie Hagia fan. Obviously Annie Thorisdottir was a big name that I had recognized too. She was a part of it as well. And then kind of like, as the more I got into CrossFit, the more exposure I had to a lot of like bigger name people. And so then I started meeting all of these names that I was familiar with from like when the NPGL was a thing. Unfortunately, RJ never got to be a part of that. But when he got recruited for the Gainesville Wild, so now that was the Florida Grid League, through his first 2 seasons on the team, I also still got to meet some big names that I remembered from the NPGL days because they were still playing in the Florida Grid League. Laura Poling is one of our old players on the Gainesville Wild. She's actually a Texas athlete. She's down near San Antonio, and we are still friends to this day. So old school NPGL, fast forward, where are we, like 7 or 8 years now?
Yep.
And these are people that I literally call my friends.
It's crazy. I'll say this. I think that's what I love about the sport of fitness in general is that the best of the best, like you can cross paths with them and have a conversation with them more often than any athlete out there, just because of like
Absolutely.
the ability for CrossFit. We'll use CrossFit as an example. They create a structure where people can compete against the best in the world because it's just an open competition a lot of times. And like Wodapalooza, for instance, in Miami, like it's a huge undertaking and a huge fitness expo and a huge event, but you get the best of the best and you get the opportunity to qualify and compete against the best of the best. And you could be a regional athlete, you could be a games athlete, or you may not be. And I think that's what's great. I'll never be able to go, play against the Yankees or, guard Kevin Durant, but it's possible in grid or in CrossFit where you can go against the best of the best in a workout, which is pretty sweet.
Or even just meet them in person. It's so much easier to meet, famous CrossFitters versus an NFL player.
Oh yeah, definitely. They are more, I think, also more approachable. I think they're out there more, and I mean, they're very passionate about the sport, and they want. I think, just like the community, they want to see others succeed, and they're always there watching. And a lot of them are coaches, which is great, but some of them are not, and they're still there doing their thing. So, Jonathan, I'll end this segment, and then we'll move on to kind of the history of the Wild. But I'll ask you, given the evolution of MPGL to Florida Grid League to now to United Grid League, what is your level of excitement for where the sport is going?
Yeah, I think we're definitely trending in a new direction. I know that when you guys talked to Matt Hornaday, you talked a little bit about the new team in Texas. So the fact that we are in an expansion period is fantastic. The fact that our team is comprised primarily of athletes outside of the state of Florida is extremely exciting. And we're not just in Atlanta or Texas where Mia and I are based, but we have an athlete from New York. We have a couple from the Carolinas, and we're seeing athletes from Arizona start getting involved. So I think the fact that there are athletes out there that realize that grid is something that they can do just helps grow the sport in a way that just from exposure, but also just you now have your local athletes that you might see every day in your gym do something real badass, and now you're excited about it. So it only just helps grow the sport a little bit more and expands the horizons of that a little bit more.
That's the one thing, talking to Matt, I didn't realize is that how many people that live outside of the state of Florida that come and play for the Florida teams, and then, I'm interested to talk to Sophia Davenport of the Houston team, because I don't know how accurate this is. This is just what I've been told, is that she put a post on the Houston social media account for people to show their grid skills and just posted, response to, different things, like almost like qualifiers that you guys would put out. And I don't know if this is true, but I was told they've received over 1,000 submissions of people doing different things. So like,
that's awesome.
That's amazing
in general, because I've been to Houston 3 times, and the amount of people in that city alone, there's got to be a lot of people that work out probably there, just on population and just pure statistics.
You have much more access to higher level competitive CrossFitters here in the state of Texas than you probably do anywhere else.
Well, I'll tell y'all this as we get into the Atlanta Wild section. Last week when we had Matthew Hornaday on, I told him I was going to pick a team to ride with solely based on
you picked us
colors, and I picked y'all. And I told him I don't usually pick teams that end up losing. We call it the in off the bench effect. Usually whoever we ride with wins. So as we get into the Atlanta Wild section, know that I jumped on this train solely based on, like I said, colors, name, logo. But now that I'm talking to y'all two, I'm with y'all. Like, let's
it's the Cats.
He's bought in. He's ready to ride. Like he won't tell you this, but he's a Saints fan, and Atlanta's not too happy
beat
with
Atlanta,
him right
so
now.
We're good. That's so last week. But no, let's talk about it. Mia, when does Atlanta acquire a team?
So I think the switch from Gainesville to Atlanta was an easy decision last year, because Dan, our current head coach, was the head coach and owner last year. He was given the team, I believe, from Adam. Yes, from Adam. And obviously, expanding outside of the state of Florida has always been something that has been on the docket. So Dan basically just seized that opportunity and was like, hey, peace out, Florida. We're in Atlanta now.
So when y'all, either y'all can answer this, just a general question, like when you're a part of the Wild and they're relocated, are you automatically, do you roll with them, or does everything start over and change?
No, everything just stayed the same from what it was before. Yeah, the biggest thing probably was just the name change, and then the color change too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, Jonathan, when do y'all become owners in this situation? I'll start with you, but when does that take place?
So Mia was originally the sole owner. So okay. Mia was riding solo. She took over ownership, Mia, 2 months before the season started?
Yeah.
And so at that point, Dan had asked me to become the assistant coach. So we were riding with Mia as the owner, Dan as a head coach, me as the assistant. And then I think after the second match in Tampa, we decided that my skill set was more suitable as an owner. And so Mia and I decided to go in on it together. So,
and that's perfect. You talk about skill sets within the ownership, and that was something Matthew talked about, was having two people that had strengths that could work together, and being able, to manage different things, because it took different areas. So Mia, I'll start with you. What are, your main responsibilities as your part in the ownership?
I do a lot more stuff on the management end. I like to think that I'm pretty good at handling people. I manage an affiliate here, pretty successfully. So handling people, a lot of the sponsorship stuff. John and I actually, I'll say that we share almost all of the responsibilities together. There is never a decision that's made that doesn't involve the two of us. When John and I had first met, just kind of not randomly, but it was at the athlete camp that we'd hosted back in May in Atlanta. And he was there to sub in for some missing players that couldn't make it from out of state. And he just introduced himself to me. He was like, "Hey, are you Mia?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I'm John. I'm the other Asian." And I was like, "Oh, we're going to be together." So I think, just like the friendship was pretty immediate between the two of us. After going through the first 2 months of the season rolling, we just kind of found that we mesh really well. We get along really well. We talk all the time. And it was just a decision that made sense for him to be my partner.
So with y'all sharing a lot of the same roles, Jonathan, what does that look like on a weekly basis, hours wise? Like how much of your time and the reason I ask is just how you're able to manage, that life of ownership along with your personal life.
Yeah, I mean, we both work full-time jobs. So that obviously plays a big part of it. I think the Wild is always in the back of our heads, even in our respective jobs. I mean, I think she's obviously manages an affiliate. She also coaches. I still coach CrossFit, so at least my head's in it. But then I also work I wouldn't call it a normal job. I work in professional sports. So I also have I'm in the sports world constantly. So I think every time I'm working my jobs, the Wild's always in the back of my head. Is obviously
I think that's the passion, though, right? When you're passionate about something, usually it's always going to be on your mind on a daily basis.
Yeah. So I would say like from an hours perspective, I mean, we have our set calls that we have every single week between me, Mia, and Dan, and then sometimes it's just me and Mia. But I think Mia and I have a communication style within the two of us where we don't set time for it. It just constantly goes. And I think with something like Grid, you kind of have to have that because it's so new and people still it's not a well-known sport, right? So I think anytime someone has an idea, if we don't make a decision on it immediately, it's going to end up hurting us. So I think there's just a lot of I saw this, we need to do this too. Okay, cool. Let's go. I'll take it. There's a lot of that going on, or do you have time today to do it? Because if not, I will. It's a lot of that. So I would say time commitment wise, it definitely varies, but it kind of just goes to the territory of me and I believe in working quickly. And me and I also believe that we want to do things differently. So, we're always trying to find a way that we can march the beat of our own drum that benefits our team and also our athletes the most.
Well, and I think, we joked about the cats earlier, but, Matthew was talking about having to balance, his little kids, and that's a whole different aspect, right? So, it's a little bit easier that you don't have that when you're balancing all these other things, commitment wise, but it definitely seems like it's something that does take a lot of time. But like I was saying, when you're passionate about something, it's not work anymore, right? It's, it's fun. And I think that's the whole key to when you do anything in life. If you're doing something you enjoy, then it's not work.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think this is obviously I think for me and Mia, this is a passion project for the two of us. I mean, she's obviously
for sure. Yeah.
Tied to it because of her husband, but I just enjoy being around the athletes, and I enjoy after working in pro sports for even just a little bit of time, I enjoy supporting athletes that I believe in. And I think that's just kind of what ultimately drives the two of us and why we want to do things our way, because we have the opportunity now to do so.
Daniel, that's the very essence of why we wanted to jump on board with Grid League, because what we do, even though typically we're dealing with collegiate athletes, but we want to support athletes. We want to promote their sport. We want to grow it. And so that's what y'all are doing. Y'all are, in a big step in that process. And this is something that we wanted to be a part of, but specifically Daniel, because CrossFit is a major passion of his. And this is something he wants to invest in, and him being my best friend of 25 years, signed me up to ride or die with him in anything. And so he's someone who's really loving what y'all are got going on. So I tell y'all to know that y'all are doing a great job, because if he invests his time into something, it's because he believes in it, and he really believes in what y'all got going on.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it with anyone else except John.
Man, look at John. Look
I don't
at
think your
that,
husband
man.
liked
That
that
is,
comment.
that is love right there, dude. You gotta feel good.
It's that Asian connection. It's how we roll.
I hear you.
We're building a dynasty here, guys.
Until
I
New
can
Orleans
tell.
gets a team, because then we know New Orleans owns Atlanta. Ooh,
Oh wow. That's
I
harsh.
see the Saints championship run.
Grid floor is a little different, man. I'm gonna say that.
Yeah, very
Ooh.
Wait till I get on those sleds. I saw the competition flipping the sleds when I get back.
Yeah,
whenever
get
that
healthy
is.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
no.
How did
It's easy for me
your
to say it while
5K
I'm
go?
hurt, right?
Yeah, right. Look, let me tell y'all something. Jim came to visit me for a vacation, and he was like, let's work out. I was like, all right, well, let's do some CrossFit. I took him through just like an EMOM. We did, a different movement every minute, and we had like, I don't know, 5 different movements, and we did it for like 30 minutes, and he died twice. I
Well,
think.
two things. Let's be clear on something. First, you threw the weighted vest on me, and second, it was 110 degrees in your garage. Those were where I work out. We actually have air conditioning. You work out there every day, so you're used to that heat. So you set me up, and you weren't wearing no vest. You threw yours on me. So let's just be clear on that.
Let's be clear. I would have dominated with that vest. So
Hey,
I'm not here to have a
hey,
measuring contest. This is
anytime
not
you
what
want
it's
to enter
about.
the octagon, son, let's do it.
Look, I ain't fighting. I'm 40 years old.
Exactly.
I
I
ain't
know
fighting
you
nobody.
won't fight.
I ain't fighting nobody because I use my brain. I'll smart.
You know what?
smart
I said the nicest thing about you to them, talking about your passion and our friendship. And then here you go throwing me on the bus about a workout that was private. It was a private workout. You just throw me out there.
man. I'm sorry. I didn't know.
I do. But you know what? I do have pictures from that day. And I have no regrets about that workout, because I feel like I might have lost 10 pounds from sweating, because it looked like I jumped in a pool. So I give my due credit. If you're going to work out with him, you're going to get everything you need and more.
He set you up from the beginning, though, because I would never put a vest on a new person.
I mean, here's what it is he is much stronger than I am when it comes to like bench press and like just the normal Globo Gym stuff. And I'm not like saying Globo Gym as it's a bad thing, because it's not. But it's the only way I can characterize what he does to work out. And
He's a bro.
So, yeah, he's definitely a bro.
There you go.
Yeah.
He's in there. He's got 3 or 4 plates on the bar, repping his bench press. That's not me. Like that's not me. So I had to do something where I could have a little bit of an edge on him.
Well, here's the good news, Daniel. With my injury, I've been on my legs. I haven't been skipping leg day, but now I've thought to myself, I might as well do legs like 3 days a week and get my legs to match my upper half at this point, right? Let's take advantage of this.
See, Jonathan,
That's how you gotta do it, dude.
Yeah,
That's how you gotta do it.
let's hope you don't hit a Achilles injury or something else that just.
Why even bring that? Why did you even bring that up, man?
John and I were
Setting
talking
you up
Achilles,
again.
Achilles injuries.
We were talking about Achilles ruptures.
So I'm
Oh,
sorry.
at Rogue?
Yeah.
Ugh, terrible.
I tell you what, I've only known of one. We've had, because y'all make guests 445, 444, 445. I only know of one athlete that I've seen successfully come back from an Achilles, and it's actually one of the greatest stories, because a gymnast that we had on, in real time, I'm texting Daniel as we watch her tear her Achilles for a second time. And I'm thinking her career is absolutely over. It was a discussion if she's going to come back. She worked her tail off, came back stronger than ever, and they won their first national championship. And it was a poetic story because it went from thinking career-ending injury to, working her butt off and then being a part of her team's in college first ever national championship. And she was absolutely the leader on that team. And it was crazy because I've never thought I would cry for one of the athletes that we had on the show, but I watched this girl work for 4 years, and to watch her on the floor crying, laying there, holding, thinking it was over, like I couldn't help it. I had like a dad moment there.
I love that. We love those stories. That's awesome.
It was tough in the moment, but it really set up for an amazing story when it was all said and done. And that's kind of where I want to go. Obviously, 2024 season is well underway. We're actually hitting the point of the season where we're hitting the playoffs. You know, and with that, you guys have had a lot of success. I watched every match thus far. Most recently the matches in Vegas, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But first, I just want to get your perspective. I'll start with you, Jonathan. Did the season, was it everything that you envisioned it to be? Was it more successful? Was it not as successful? Or was it exactly what you guys expected?
I think in certain ways, it definitely was what we expected. We put together a really strong roster of athletes this year. And we pulled a diverse group of athletes as well. So we weren't necessarily predominant in just the strength stuff or just the body weight stuff, like we may have been a little bit last year. And so we definitely pulled together a very strong, balanced roster. We had a lot of experience. We did not have a ton of rookies. And so I think that definitely, in that regard, we have a lot of leadership on our team, which is great. And I definitely think that I think Mia would agree, in most of our matches, we definitely kind of met expectation in terms of what we were capable of. We expected to be in the playoffs, that's for sure. That's so in that regard, yes, we definitely did it, and how we got there was maybe not necessarily as smooth as we thought it might be, but at the end of the day, we're playing this weekend, so and we were able to take a bye. We were offered the chance to play in, and we don't have to.
Can I give y'all a tip that I noticed the difference between that team that's above y'all at number one than y'all on Instagram? They have every one of their athletes individual pages at the top, so you can actually learn everyone on the roster. That's a great feature, because I was actually, the reason I even noticed that, it was because I was going to check out all the athletes on the roster and it didn't have it there. So if I could give a tip, that it's something that I'm not even good at. We're still learning social media aspects. I think that's really cool, because I was trying to learn the roster top to bottom.
There's a lot of heat out there on the Southwest Florida Sharks, and how they got players, and I'll just leave it at that. But there's some people who are not happy with that, and some people are okay with it, but that's neither here nor there. Mia, obviously a big opportunity for the Atlanta Wild, but also just a huge opportunity for the United Grid League going to Vegas at the Mr. Olympia to, really have matches that were to culminate the season. But Hurricane Milton had some other issues and wanted to throw a dagger and all that. They were able to kind of salvage some of the primary matches, and they were able to couple that with some secondary matches as far as points and things like that. Tell me about your experience, or the team's experience in Vegas at the Olympia. Was it a net positive? Was it net negative? Was it just neutral? Like, what was the experience overall for the Wild?
I would say positive for sure. I think that the level of stress that everybody on the team and on leadership was experiencing leading up to Vegas sort of, maybe left people a little bit discouraged at first getting out there. But I feel like that's something that kind of happens all the time, right? Like, because so many of us are separate, like we are not all together in one place at any given time. All it takes is just the team physically coming back together again, and you can just see like the change in moods. Everybody feels a little bit better now that they can see their teammates. They hit a workout together at team practice. They went out to eat afterwards. They were able to talk to each other and plan in person, versus just like our Instagram group chat, where everybody communicates on a day-to-day basis. So that was for sure positive, but not out of the ordinary. I think that's what my point is. And then, getting able to be part of the Mr. Olympia Expo was very cool. One exciting thing for us was we got CT Fletcher to come out and watch, 2 minutes of the match because he was in the middle of doing an autograph signing. But he was there, he got to see it, he thought it was super cool. But also just like, for some of our players too, like Sydney Wilson has a bodybuilding background, so she is very into all of that kind of stuff. So that was something that was exciting for her to be able to experience, even though she wasn't a part of it. She was there, she could see all of the competitors. And then, being able to be together after the matches, kind of regroup, plan for this weekend. Always super positive for us when we get to be together.
Jonathan, were you in attendance? Did both of you guys make the trip to Vegas?
Oh God, she's so mad at me. No, I had a wedding that I had to go to, so I couldn't make it out there.
She didn't prep me on asking that
kids.
question. She didn't tell me to ask that question.
I did leave her with the kids. That was my fault.
Hey, I'll tell you this, Daniel, following up on our conversation earlier, as y'all are talking, I'm listening, but at the same time watching these videos, all the girls that are on the Wild are just badass. That's facts.
I mean,
yeah.
Sydney Wilson's probably 3 times as strong as you are, brother. Like, no joke.
I'm watching it. I believe you. I'm watching it.
And, I mean, Griffin is strong too. He's
specific, right? Because obviously we know I can do a lot of weight, like with power cleans. That's the video I'm watching. But the speed in which they're doing no break, the cardiovascular side of it is where it's different, because it's not as impressive for me to just do heavy weight one time versus them doing it 10 times repetitiously the way they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, Mia, you were there. You got a chance to go. So this next question is really one of those hot button questions. All right.
Uh-oh.
So they say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Uh-oh.
Outside of the matches, once everything was settled, I'm quite confident, because if I know anything about fitness individuals and CrossFit people, the party afterwards, after the event, is always pretty strong. The game is pretty strong. So I'll ask you, was there anything that went on after, we'll call it at the night market in Vegas? Was there anything going on out there? Any funsies, any good stories? Obviously,
to my knowledge, there is nothing that is not shareable that happened.
Dang.
However, I did hear that there are a couple of members on our team that are really good at karaoke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
they went line dancing too, right?
Yeah, they went line dancing and then to karaoke. I personally was in bed at about 7:30.
I mean, karaoke is a great thing to do for camaraderie, right? Like, it's something that you don't have to be good at, right? It's a good time. Like, that's like a good team bonding thing that you can do in general. And especially in Vegas, after you're there having fun, just trying to cut loose. I like that.
It's something they were planning too. Like the intention going into Vegas was, we will find a place for line dancing and a place for karaoke. Like, that was a given. It was like, oh, are we going clubbing? That was never part of the conversation. We
karaoke.
are going to karaoke and we're going line dancing. Like, that was just the plan.
No,
from-
line dancing ain't my thing.
Tampa.
I did do it once upon a time when I was stationed in Jacksonville, Florida, to pick up girls, but I'm not a big country music guy, so line dancing doesn't really vibe with me. But I can do that. I can get down some karaoke, but
You got two left feet.
exactly. But Jonathan, playoffs start this weekend. I've been sitting here looking at the graphics, the videos. The hype is awesome. The question I got for you and Mia: do y'all, do a lot of coaching and talking up to the players, or do you leave that strictly to the coach?
We don't. We leave that to Dan. Our kind of what makes our team unique and what makes, I think, us run as well as we do is we let the coach do the coaching. And we stay out of his lane the same way that he stays out of our lane. And I think that's why we're able to make it work really well. So we definitely listen. He definitely asks us for input. So yeah, we will look at the lineups and we'll make suggestions if we think something's a little bit weird, but that's Dan's world. Dan is very good at data collection. Dan will sit there and watch every match and collect stats and figure out what works best for us. So we, we'll look at it just to see if there's anything obvious that maybe he's missing because he's so into the details that we're a little bit more big picture. So if we see like, hey, we're doubling up here, or hey, this sub can't work, or hey, who's actually the wild card? We have two right now. We're only allowed to have one. So there's some bigger things that we're able to look at. But when it comes to lineup creation, who's doing what, we do our best to stay out of it as much as we possibly can. We're more there to support the athletes off the grid and to support the athletes not talking about grid stuff. That's kind of where we more come in, me and Mia. But I am the one in charge of when we're on the grid floor. I am the one in charge of letting everyone know like who's next, what event's next, who's lining up in that regard. So like, yeah, I that's, I guess, my direct involvement with the athletes, with the actual match itself.
Gotcha. So Mia, put you on the spot here. I'm in tune and I'm expecting, so they're going through these athletes. Like I said, who's somebody that you expect to have a big weekend this weekend?
I think David, because David is pretty strictly a strength specialist on our team, but like sort of even more specialized. Like you'll typically only see him on a barbell. And I think you guys are going to see David do a lot of things this weekend that maybe you were not expecting him to be doing.
So David, you heard that all the pressure's on because I'm going to expect big things.
David ain't listening. He doesn't even know how to use his phone.
Oh man, don't throw him under the bus like that. So Jonathan,
we'll show him the clip.
There you go. Shout out David McKellar. Let's go, brother.
There we go.
Let's do it.
So what do you need to have, to call it a successful weekend or have a good weekend? Is it as simple as just winning, or do you want to see certain things happen?
I think at the end of the day, what's going to make a successful weekend for us is winning. Plain and simple. That's the goal that we all agreed to. That's why all, including me and Mia and Dan, the 23 of us bought into this was we were going to go for a championship. So a successful weekend for us is going to be taking home the W. It's not to say that individual performances won't matter, but I think at this point we're all very big picture and like we're going to Fort Lauderdale to win. So I think that will probably define success for us this weekend.
So if I understand it the way it looks with the bye set, so the first four will square off, and so how does it work day wise though? Like what day is that first four go on? Is it go the first day and then the next day it's back to back?
Yes. So Saturday will be all the playoff matches. So that is where the teams 3 through 6 will compete for a spot.
So it's a genuine significant advantage because you're rested.
Correct.
Okay. So, I mean, correct. I don't think a bye's ever became greater because in most sports, when you have the bye, you're talking about a week-to-week basis. You're correct. Talking about so that's huge. Okay.
Yeah. And then the next day, Sunday, is when the actual playoffs will happen. There's a match at 9 a.m., one at 11 a.m., and then championships will be at 3 p.m. So it is going to be a doubleheader. It's really never not been a doubleheader to my knowledge. So it's going to be tight, but I think that's going to be where you dip into how deep your roster is. Are you willing to make changes on the fly? Is everyone ready to step up at any given moment? Because it's, when you have a doubleheader, if you as an athlete are not prepared, you are hindering the team. So, things happen. I mean, Tyler Billington tore both lats in the middle of that second match in Vegas. So anything can happen, and we just need to be prepared.
That's
Next
a question that
man
actually
up.
if someone goes down in the middle, like, does it like a timeout called for, or does the event just keep going?
The race keeps going.
Swap them out.
But somebody can come in and start going for them. Okay,
correct.
Okay. That's what's making
me, Dan, and Mia. Yep.
One team would really be penalized if somebody got hurt because they would fall way behind. Okay,
correct. Yeah, you're only ever limited. The rules per race are you can either have a certain number of people of each gender on the grid at the same time, or for a lot of the races, it's one of each. So if I get injured and I go down, I can run off and another guy can come take my place. So that is totally allowed, but it can't be any guy on the team. It has to be.
But nonetheless, if you're one of those reserves, be ready at all times because you never know. Gotcha.
You truly never know when you're going to be needed and your number is going to get called.
It's almost, Jim, like hockey where they do live line changes. Like there's work being done, and then you'll see people running off the grid and then new people running onto it. So, and it happens frequently, and
but I think it would require
workout,
or not. It would depend on what event was going on, because I feel like it could be advantageous if you came in and you were more rested than the other person, but also you get in a groove doing these workouts. So if you come into the wrong one and the other one's rolling and you come in and you got to get going, then it's so I guess it depends on when it happens and what you're jumping into, if it'll really hurt you or not.
Yeah. And Dan knows what everyone is capable of. So Dan, in preparation, just because we don't, unlike a lot of teams like Palm Beach, unlike Orlando, Daytona will do it. Like, we don't get to practice together. It is the one time it kind of helped us was Vegas because we weren't heavily Florida based. But Dan sends out testers. We require athletes to submit videos of them doing the testers with their time. So Dan knows what everybody is capable of. Dan also sends you your own testers. So my testers will be very different than Mia's. Mia's much better on a barbell than I am. And I was originally recruited just to do burpees. So that's, that's just kind of, we all know what everyone should be able to do. And so you are definitely going into the match knowing I will most likely be called in these scenarios if something happens. So at least everyone should be mentally prepared for that.
Well, the good news is you guys are in a great position with a spot already locked up. You don't have to worry about winning or other teams losing by X amount of points or whatever. You're good to go. You know that you're going to get a match, and it's going to come down to you executing and doing what you do best. Mia, I want to kind of get your thoughts. I don't want to, overlook the playoffs, but I kind of want to dive a little bit into the off season. What are the plans for off season? Is it, reestablishing coaches? Is it hiring new coaches, general managers? Is it trying to secure players? Is it getting new players, worrying about the combine? Like what is it that you guys are going to focus on when the off season rolls around?
I mean, between John, Dan, and I, not much is going to change. Our plan actually is when the three of us are together in Florida to kind of sit down and figure out what we want next season to look like. There's always going to be the possibility of players not returning next season. So that is going to have to be figured out. And then that's really the only thing that we can work on right now, because once we see those numbers, then a next step gets established. Maybe we have to recruit an entirely new team. Maybe we don't have, right? Like maybe it's something on the complete opposite end. We really just I don't know. I don't know until we know what numbers are looking like.
Well, what I do know is winning cures all. So if you win,
Yeah.
probably a lot less work
Yeah.
as far as having to, go looking for players. A lot of them would want to re-sign, I would assume, and
For
run
sure.
it back.
Yeah.
Speaking of looking for players numbers, we brought up the Houston thing. How excited are y'all for that team coming in? And then a follow up question, if either y'all want to answer, where would be another cool destination for the next potential team?
I'm really excited about another team. I think it's only going to help the sport. It's only going to increase eyes on the sport. I think we're a sport that, as of right now, is kind of pay to play. And that's definitely something that Mia and I going into next year are looking at changing, at least for the Wild. Because, we want to make life as easy as we can on our athletes. I mean, one of the things that we do that's a little bit different is we do budget Airbnbs for our athletes so that we are all staying together. Not only does that help team unity for a team that is very, very spread out, but it also, it's just one less thing you have to worry about when you show up to Fort Lauderdale is where am I staying? So that is definitely something that is a little bit more unique for our particular organization. But I'm excited just because the more people have eyes on it, the more likely you can get a sponsor. We rely on sponsorship money. The teams do, the league does, obviously, most sports do. And I think, the league is still waiting for that one big one. I think every team is looking for that one big one.
So you can't go wrong when it's Texas, right? I mean, you're going to the big state.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, in terms of, I don't know, Mia, where else should one go? I mean, me and I did our research. So I have heard Memphis is on the table.
I mean,
Interesting.
that's where we're from, but no, there are a lot of CrossFit competitors in this area, a lot of CrossFit gyms. So I truly believe that could be a possibility. That's where I think Daniel needs to start diving in and digging in.
Saying.
How he's going to come back home and live by me and run this team.
Not a chance. I'm living in Memphis, bro.
Man, come on. You miss the rain and the cold and the crime and all this stuff. Come on, Florida.
Nothing is better than living in Florida and it's November 12th and I'm dealing with another hurricane next week. Like, this is ridiculous. But
oh man,
I do know, like, Houston makes the 9th team, and
yep, we need a 10th.
You need a 10th.
Odd number, nope.
So
I mean, the only other one I can think of is just because there's a larger pool of athletes coming out of there right now would be Arizona.
Mm-hmm. Well, what about,
there are just more athletes coming out of there now?
Thinking about just Memphis in general, just thinking about the state of Tennessee. Memphis and Tennessee, Nashville are only a couple hours apart. When you talked about the drives and getting to two major city hubs like that in a close area, if you could put together a team in Tennessee, I think you would be able to draw a lot of athletes from those two areas.
For sure. And there's a lot of gyms out there. So,
well, last question, and I'm going to let Daniel do his new segment he's been doing with guests. But talking about your role, Jonathan, with the Atlanta Vibe, the first professional volleyball team in the USA in 20 years. Talk about those players and talk about that team.
Yeah. So I work for I'm the director of ticketing for the Atlanta Vibe. They're the Atlanta-based franchise for the Pro Volleyball Federation. Professional volleyball has never really been attempted that much. It's been attempted a couple times, but with different business models. So this is the very first time that a franchise-based NFL-style business model has been put in place. You can get cut. We do trades. We are having a draft in 2 weeks. So I'm just excited. And the same with, I think what brought me to especially work with Mia for the Wild is just opportunities for homegrown athletes. I think it's, as someone who personally is never going to go to the CrossFit Games, but I know that there are things that I can do on the grid. It gives me an opportunity to showcase what I'm good at, which apparently is burpees. But
you are very good at burpees.
Thank you. I do my best. But for for as a volleyball player, knowing that after college, before then, in order to compete professionally, I had to go overseas. It's great to keep our athletes at home. So I think that's been why I enjoy working for the Vibe and the Wild.
Well, I'll tell you, we have an appreciation that, Jonathan, because we do all sports, and one of our bigger sports, I'd say probably maybe fourth on down the list of having high caliber guests is volleyball. We've had national champions from Kentucky and Texas, and the very thing you said, a lot of them are having to go overseas to play. So I really appreciate what's going on there, giving them the opportunity. And hey, if you ever want to have any of them come on, let me know. And if you ever want, hey, we got a girl, Daniel, Emma Grohm from Kentucky, National SEC Player of the Year. Hey, you need
Emma's so good. Emma's so good.
It's one of those
things
on
our list.
Until you watch it, Jonathan, like people, when you tell them that she's a setter, right, they don't realize like she can get the ball anywhere on the court and somehow place it perfectly for these girls to absolutely throw it down. It doesn't even make sense to me. I've seen like the angles that she's been at.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how does it always go to the right place? It's crazy.
And she sets fast too. Like Kentucky runs a fast ball. I mean, Leah Edmond came from Kentucky. Allie Stumler was on our team last year.
Show.
Yeah, Allie was on our roster last year. She's not this year. I don't think she's playing this year. I think she's taking a year off to rest. But yeah, I mean, we had a loaded roster. We were the regular season champions of last year. We just didn't put it together. Weren't able to put it together in the playoffs. Our starting middle went down halfway through with a sprained ankle. So, when she is your kill and blocks leader, or not your kill, but your blocks leader, does make defense a little bit harder. But I mean, we're doing the same thing that the Wild are doing this year. We kind of have a little bit of a chip on our shoulder, and we have a lot of unfinished business. We have a brand new head coach. She was a Rio bronze medalist. So, and she played at Nebraska, which is just volleyball world.
Yeah, so, we've talked about that. Our most recent guest was from LSU volleyball, but she was originally from Nebraska, and we talked to her about how they packed out a football stadium, and she said literally everything, because for a girl who not only grew up in Nebraska but just is in that sport, to see the impact and see that many people. And Daniel told her, he was like, I think because you make such a big event of it, he said, if you put that same kind of game on in Tiger Stadium at LSU, you probably get the same thing, because you make it a massive event and people buy in. And then, like I said about volleyball, it's different in person. TV just doesn't really show, how hard those girls are hammering it down. Like,
when you hear the ball in an arena live, you're like, oh, she hit the ball.
If you want to make volleyball TV friendly, you need to put body cameras on the players.
We've thought about doing that.
And people will get a different appreciation for how fast that ball travels and how fast and what the players do on the court, because it's unreal.
Oh, yeah.
But my favorite thing, and we asked the guests this in our this or that, Jonathan, is do you like a block or a kill better? And most of them do say a block, and I agree. There's nothing better when a girl thinks she's fixing to throw it down on you and you send it back. That's my favorite.
As someone who's 5'8.5", every time I got a block, it was the best day ever.
Hell yeah, that's what
it was rare. I was a libero. That was rare for me.
And I would flex on people too. I would just be like, right in front of them.
I mean, the stare downs are real, and our team, the Wild is known for some stare downs. I would say we've had a couple.
I hope
usually Amanda Fisher is.
I hope this weekend is full of stare downs, and
we do too.
Man, it's gonna be great. But before you guys roll out of here, I wanna present you guys with a hypothetical. And usually we have college athletes on, and so we don't do this because these hypotheticals are a lot deeper. And nothing against the college athlete, but they're just not in the mature space to give like a good answer when it comes to these hypotheticals. So we leave it very general with the games that we play with them. But this, I think, being business owners, like you guys, I think can handle this. So I'll pop it on the screen and then I'll read it for you. So here's the hypothetical. You come across a book. It could be a book that you found in your attic while you're cleaning it out. It's all dusty. And you go, this is an interesting book. You start reading it and you realize that this book is the story of your life. You read and you read and you read and you relive all the moments of your life, and you get to present day in the book where you are recording a podcast in Off the Bench. And do you continue to read to see how your life ends, or do you stop reading and go, I'll just experience it? So Mia, I'll start with you.
Oh, this plays with my anxiety so bad.
I know,
Okay.
right?
Mia, you
That's
go
what I
first.
was gonna say. I was gonna say my anxiety tells me to read all the way to the end, but I think I would stop reading.
Jonathan,
I don't want to know.
Where do you land with this?
I would also stop reading, and I think it's because my life has clearly taken so many random left turns that it's just made it more interesting. Like, if you asked me 10 years, like 15 years ago, oh, you're going to dance professional ballroom for 10 years, I would have thought you were out of your mind. I didn't start dancing until I was 20. So, I mean, now I own a sports team. What? Like, I don't know. I just think it makes my life interesting. I don't know.
I mean, no, your life is, I mean, when we're talking about whether it's the grid league or the ballroom dancing or the volleyball, like, I like that, it's the very essence of what we do on the show. We could just stick to, per what the numbers say, one sport, right?
Yeah.
And that's not what me and Danny like. We love sports in general as a whole. We love talking about new things, different things. We could also like stick to certain regions of the country. We like to go coast to coast. And so I like what you're doing. I like to dive into different things, keep it fresh, keep it new.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of live life more spontaneously that way. So it's not, you don't think you have to do a specific thing, and you kind of leave yourself open to say yes to stuff like joining me and owning the wild.
Yeah.
This very show that we're doing on this, like,
yeah,
if we just stuck to what people are saying and just do one thing and be more successful, I don't get to learn about this and be fascinated by it, and along with other things. We're just talking about volleyball. I would have never stepped into a gym and probably watched college volleyball had we not had a couple of the players on.
Yeah,
talked about it. So it gives you that, okay, you know what, I could invest in this, and then you go check it out and you get rewarded for it.
For sure.
So just when you thought the hypothetical was over, there's a second part to this.
Oh God,
it's like
here we go.
Choose your own adventure. When you answer one way, I have another follow-up. When you answer the other way, I have
the
a different
alternate ending on a movie, Daniel. You can click.
Oh God, okay.
So because you chose not to continue reading the book of your life, what if you got to present day and there was only, let's say there's like 300 pages, 400, 500, whatever it is, and you get to present day and there's only 2 pages left. Then what do you do? Do you read the last 2 pages and go, all right, let me see how I go out? Or do you stick with your guns and you go, you know what? I'm just not going to read it. Whatever happens, happens.
I stick with my guns.
Yeah, I wouldn't read
I don't know how I go out.
Yeah, I don't want to know how I die.
I'm going to be watching out for that the whole time.
Matthew said it'd be like, we basically referenced Final Destination, where you're.
I was going to say, that's very Final Destination 1 through 7.
Oh, man. Well, Mia, Jonathan, I appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Obviously, a big weekend in store for y'all. I'll go ahead and share this because I think Jim has posted, and he's tagged you guys on it, on Instagram. He has posted that, the Atlanta Wild will win it all and lock it up. And he's got the Wild
Let's go
posted on Instagram. So he's
anybody
calling.
Anybody wants to bet? I love the gamble. Let's go.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Mia, I'll start with you. Anything you want to plug or promote before you get out of here?
Oh, we would love to plug some of our sponsors. MRI Performance, super awesome supplements from them. Grey Group Tactical, best vests out there. They do not compare to the one that has 3 numbers in it. Who's After a Grey Group and MRI. Dr. Pete from Hybrid Spine and Sport. If you're local to Atlanta, go have him check you out. He's really awesome. Who else?
Zero
FG, our favorite energy drink, also Georgia-based company. Super clean ingredients. We love them so much. Who else?
Beast Pack.
Beast Pack, best weightlifting vest out there. For real. Way better than the other one that has one number in it.
These vests with numbers, no good. Jonathan, anything you need to add? Anything you want to plug or promote?
No, those are the people that have had our back this entire year. Swim DCS as well, which is just a swim club here in Georgia. We're very lucky that we have a lot of local Georgia companies that support us. I think that's a goal of me and Mia, especially going to next year, is we want to represent Atlanta the best way that we can. So no, watch us on YouTube. We are playing on Sunday morning. We are not sure which match we are yet. It'll either be 9 a.m. or 11. And then, Jim says we're going to be playing at 3. So we'll see you guys at 3 p.m.
There you go. Speak
up.
it into existence.
Yep.
Yes.
Love
Dub
it. I love
City.
it. Well, hey, whatever happens, just know you're always welcome to come back on here, and maybe we'll bring some players on, we'll recap it all, we'll talk about it, but most importantly, I believe we're going to be talking about Atlanta Wild 2024 United Grid League champions. I mean,
Let's
that
do
has
it.
a nice little ring to it. So
Let's go. First year in the city, we'd love to bring home a title.
that's right, baby. Have a blast this weekend, and we'll be in touch. I appreciate y'all joining us.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thanks so much for having us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's Mia Hibbert and Jonathan Chen, owners of the Atlanta Wild of the United Grid League. If you like hearing their story, or you just like hearing us average Joes talk X's and O's, please like and share the podcast on Facebook, retweet us on X, listen and subscribe wherever you stream your podcast. As always, go over to YouTube, click like, click subscribe, hit the notifications. That way, whenever content drops, you'll be the first to know, and you'll be the first to get on there and experience everything that we have to offer. As always, comments, ratings, feedback, thumbs up, hearts, hugs, love. We'll take it all, and we'll see everybody back again tomorrow. Jim, who are we talking to tomorrow?
We're going to stay in Georgia. We're talking to Alton Davis, star closer, projected first-round pick.
Nice.
Absolutely elite. So we're going to get into his story and talk about how Georgia, man, they're making moves.
Hey, it's going to be big. Another solid week. So y'all stick around. Join us tomorrow night. As always, this has been the In Off the Bench podcast. Strong body, sharp minds, grit and grind all the time. We are